She didn't just run the HOA, she owned it, and everyone in it. Karen Whitfield had been president of the Maple Creek Homeowners Association for 11 consecutive years. 11 years of iron-fisted rule disguised as community standards. She drove a pearl-white Cadillac, wore designer sunglasses at 7 a.m., and kept a leather-bound notebook she called the Ledger, a record of every violation, every neighbor she despised, and every fine she had personally engineered. Nobody ran against her, not because they didn't want to, because the last man who tried found 17 code violations on his property within a week. Cracked driveway, unapproved mailbox, a garden gnome that was, and we are not making this up, 3 inches too tall per section 4, paragraph 2. He sold his house 6 months later. Karen smiled at his moving truck. Then Marcus and Diana Webb moved into 14 Pinewood Lane, a young interracial couple, both lawyers, with a newborn daughter and a dream of a peaceful life in the suburbs. They painted their shutters a warm navy blue. They planted sunflowers along the fence. They introduced themselves to a neighbor with homemade banana bread. Karen watched them from her car. She opened the ledger. She clicked her pen. And just like that, the most calculated, most personal, most legally catastrophic HOA harassment campaign in Maple Creek history had begun. She had no idea who she just picked a fight with. The first letter arrived on a Tuesday, crisp, official, stamped with the Maple Creek HOA seal like it came from the White House. Notice of violation. Shutter color not pre-approved by Architectural Review Committee. Fine, $250. You have 14 days to comply. Marcus read it twice. Diana read it once, then pulled up the HOA bylaws on her laptop before the coffee finished brewing. They found nothing. No color restriction, no pre-approval clause for shutters, nothing. They wrote back, politely, citing the exact bylaw sections. Karen's response came in 48 hours, a second fine, this time for improperly stored recycling bins. The bins were inside their garage, behind a closed door. Then came the letters that turned the neighborhood's stomach. Noise complaints, filed at 9 a.m. on a Saturday while their newborn slept. A formal complaint that their baby stroller left briefly on the porch constituted unauthorized outdoor storage. A citation for a sprinkler running 2 minutes past the approved watering window. But Karen's most wicked move? She began visiting their neighbors. Quietly, personally, whispering that the Webbs were difficult, that their property was bringing down values, that Maple Creek had always been a certain kind of neighborhood, and she let that sentence hang in the air like poison. 3 neighbors stopped waving. One returned Diana's banana bread, unopened. What Karen didn't know was that Marcus had been documenting everything, every letter, every timestamp, every fine, every neighbor she'd whispered to. The ledger had met its match. Marcus Webb didn't just document, he weaponized documentation. Every violation letter was scanned, timestamped, and filed in a color-coded binder. He installed a doorbell, a side yard camera, and a discreet porch camera, all legal, all recording. He kept a daily log, date, time, weather, what Karen did, what Karen said, who Karen visited afterward. Diana, meanwhile, had been quietly interviewing neighbors, the ones who still talked to them. What she uncovered was breathtaking. 11 families over 8 years had been fined into submission. 4 had sold their homes. 2 had filed complaints with the HOA board that mysteriously disappeared. One elderly couple, the Nguyen's, had fined $14,000 over 3 years for violations that included an unapproved wind chime and visible potted plants on an interior windowsill. They had never told anyone. They were too afraid. Diana sat with Mrs. Nguyen at her kitchen table and slid a legal pad across to her. "Write it all down," she said softly. "Every single thing." Mrs. Nguyen wrote for 2 hours without stopping. Marcus filed a Fair Housing Act complaint with HUD because Karen's whisper campaign had a pattern. Every targeted family was either a minority household, a young couple, or someone who had dared question her authority. The pattern wasn't subtle. It was a blueprint. Then Marcus did something Karen never anticipated. He contacted a civil rights attorney, one who worked on contingency, one who loved cases like this, one who had beaten HOAs before. The attorney reviewed the binder, the camera footage, Mrs. Nguyen's 2-hour statement, and 11 years of Karen's meeting minutes, which were, by law, public record. He looked up from the table and said 4 words that made Marcus exhale for the first time in months. "She handed us everything." Karen, at that exact moment, was drafting violation letter number 31. Something about the angle of their welcome mat. She had no idea the walls were already closing in. The lawsuit landed on a Monday morning. Federal court. 7 plaintiffs, 12 counts, including Fair Housing Act violations, selective enforcement, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and civil harassment. The damages sought $2.3 million. Maple Creek HOA's insurance carrier received their copy at 9 a.m. By noon, Karen had been suspended as president pending investigation. By 3 p.m., 3 board members had already hired separate personal attorneys because Marcus had named them individually too. Karen told her husband it was all lies, a coordinated attack, a misunderstanding. Then the discovery process began, and the ledger, her precious leather-bound ledger, was subpoenaed. What investigators found inside was not just violation records, it was a masterclass in premeditated targeting. Karen had written personal notes beside certain families, coded language, references to keeping standards. Next to the Webb family's entry written the day they moved in before a single violation had been issued were the words, "Don't belong here. Handle accordingly," written in her own handwriting. Her attorney advised her to settle immediately. Karen refused. She wanted to fight. She was certain she would win because she had always won. She had never sat across from Diana Webb in a courtroom before. Diana presented 47 months of documented harassment, time-stamped footage, witness testimony from 9 families, expert analysis showing the targeting pattern correlated 94% with race and family composition. She was calm, precise, and absolutely devastating. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Verdict: $1.8 million in compensatory damages, $600,000 in punitive damages, total $2.4 million. Karen Whitfield lost her house, ironically, to an HOA lien filed when she couldn't pay her legal fees. She was permanently barred from serving in any HOA leadership role in the state. The Maple Creek HOA itself was placed under a federal compliance monitor for 5 years. The Webbs used part of their settlement to establish a free legal aid fund, specifically for HOA harassment victims. Mrs. Nguyen planted the biggest, most gloriously unapproved wind chime garden Maple Creek had ever seen. And at 14 Pinewood Lane, the navy blue shutters still stand, gorgeous, bold, and completely unbothered. Karen's ledger sits in a federal evidence archive, collecting dust, as it should. The lesson? HOA harassment is a real legal claim. Document everything. Know your rights under the Fair Housing Act. And never, ever underestimate the neighbor who shows up with banana bread and a law degree. If this story moved you, made you angry, or gave you chills, smash that like button right now. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe because we expose stories like this every single week. And most importantly, drop a comment and tell us where in the world you're watching from. Your support means everything and keeps these stories alive.